Good morning. Today's video is going to be about how to repair a Volvo V60 R-Design seat. This is a 2012 car. It's done about 100,000 miles and it hasn't been abused at all, but as you can see, the seat bolster has completely fallen to pieces. I was quoted £500 by the local dealer to have it repaired, so I decided to search on that well-known auction website, and all of the seats that I found, all the covers that I found had exactly the same problem. So it's obviously a really common issue with this material. So rather than spend the money with the dealer, I'm going to fix it. So I'm going to bring you guys along for the ride. Let's get started.
The first thing we need to do is remove the plastic covers over the top of the bolts that hold the seat into the vehicle. There are two at the front and two at the back. It's easiest if you slide the seat right forward to do the rear ones and right back to do the front ones. Now you don't need to use a lot of force, but you see I have had to stick the screwdriver in a fair way, but a flat blade screwdriver is a good tool to get these out with. It doesn't take a lot of effort. If you're trying too hard, you're doing it wrong and you're probably going to break them.
So now the seat's unbolted, we can take it out, but before we do that, we've got to make a few safety precautions. Now, the seat is connected to the crash system, so there's a bunch of wires going to the bottom of the seat which controls the seat pre-tensioners and the airbags and a bunch of other bits and pieces. So before you even think about moving the seat, you've got to make sure that the ignition's off, the key's out, and that the seat is properly disconnected from all the wiring. So this is the disclaimer bit. It's not my fault if an airbag goes off in your face. I'm just showing you what I did to get this seat out, okay? So in here, there's the connector for the airbag and crash pre-tensioner system. So you just need to undo this screw. It's a 7mm hex. I've got it attached to a quarter drive ratchet with an extension. Just whip that out and disconnect that connector. It should just come off pretty easily once that's loose.
The next job is to remove the plastic trim panel on the side of the seat and also the handle that controls the height adjustment. Believe it or not, this is actually a really easy job. There are just two T20 screws to remove. The first one is behind this handle. The trim panel can then be released from the seat by popping off the clip at the back where it connects to the main seat structure.
So now I've got the seat loose and I've got this plastic trim cover loose. The next thing to do is take the seat height adjustment handle out. Now to do that, you have to shuffle the seat off of its mounts. So you are going to have to move it, and it is quite a heavy seat, especially if you've got power seats. So you do need to make sure that you're in a good position so you don't hurt your back or anything like that. But just shuffle it backwards, keep the seat forward on the runners, but just move it backwards, and then you need to lift the front of the seat up to get to the screw that's underneath. So the seat is now completely disconnected from the vehicle, pre-tensioner for the seat belt is disconnected, wiring and all the bolts are out. It's time to get it out of the vehicle. Okay, now it's time to remove the seat cover. Hopefully that won't be too difficult. Let's see how it goes. So I've got the seat cushion off without too much trouble. There's a few clips, two on the sides, one at the front and one at the back. They are a bit tricky to pull, but they do come eventually. You don't need to be too brutal with it. They just need a little bit of patience and care. So let's get the cover off this cushion and see what that looks like. I've separated the seat cover from the cushion. It took me about 10 or 15 minutes. Those clips are really tricky. I found the best way is to use a flat blade screwdriver with a bit of a angle on the end of it, and just lever up one side and then just roll the screwdriver underneath to open the clip out at the bottom, and that just pops out. Obviously the car is 12 years old. No, 7 years old. Car's 7 years old, and so it's done 100,000 miles. These clips are obviously not brand new. They've seen a lot of action. It's not dodgy. Just need to be really careful to make sure you don't break them, because if you do, then it's going to be big dollars to replace that seat cushion. So this is now in bits. Not intending to replace the whole thing. I just want to replace this. Just want to replace this rip section here, this rip panel. This is the scary bit now. I've got to try and cut these out without ripping the rest of it. See how that goes. The handy thing is you'll see on the seat you've got these little pips, and they match up with the pips that we cut out from the sample. So if everything lines up, see that there, if I line those two, then the next two line up, and so on, and that helps us keep the the two pieces in the correct alignment, so that when we stitch it all together, hopefully it doesn't look horrific. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I found out that my sewing machine can't handle the thickness of the material, so I've had to take the foam off and just sew in a plain piece without the foam on it. You can see I had to take the foam off, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the foam on once I've got it all sewn up. What I'm also having to do is the sewing machine's really struggling in these corners where we've got lots and lots of material, again because of the thickness, so I'm having to sew these up by hand. Not great at hand sewing, but let's see how we get on. Okay, so I finally got this all sewn up. My fingers are absolutely killing me. I had to manually sew all of these seams. They are a little bit scruffy, I've got to say. There's a few where the stitches didn't quite come out straight, even though I marked them out. Everything moves around, but it's getting late, I'm tired, and this is about the best job as I could do. But at least there isn't a split in the material. Now I've just got to figure out how I make the colours match, whether I dye this one a different colour or whether I change the panel on the opposite side, so at least the chairs are symmetrical. So unfortunately the material that I've got on the shelf is a much lighter grey than the dark grey that came out of the Volvo, but I've also got some acrylic leather dye, black, and some acrylic finisher, so I'm going to put that over the top of the vinyl, and hopefully that will give me a colour that's pretty close to matching the Volvo. So there we have it. Seat's back in the vehicle and the seat cover is repaired. It's not perfect, but most importantly, it doesn't have that great big rip in it that it had before. I'm really pleased with the result. It's my first time doing anything like this, so it was never going to be amazing, but actually I'm quite pleased with the way that the colour in particular was blended. Putting that black finishing paint over the top of the vinyl has given it a really nice finish, and although it is a little bit crinkly, it is in keeping with the rest of the seat, so it doesn't stand out quite so much, because obviously it's an old car and the seats have got a little bit stretched and crinkled with my considerable weight on them for 100,000 miles. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on Engineer Anything.